they are coming in.
Hello, everyone. First off, I want to welcome you all and thank you all for being a part of our Progress series. So Progress was conceived of in February 2021 as a way to reach out to all of the constituency of Phi Kappa Tau, wherever they may be, in a virtual setting, to make sure that we are providing education and providing value as an organization. This is our inaugural parents session, and I am just so happy to have you be a part of it. A little bit about what we're going to spend our time on tonight. Tonight you are going to hear from some of the leaders of this fraternity. You're going to learn a little bit about our organization and what we have to offer. You're also going to hear from some fellow parents and get their perspective and see how they feel about our organization. Finally, there'll also be a Q&A session. Questions can be asked at that time, or you can post them in the chat directly, or alternatively, there will be a survey posted in the chat if you need to post anonymously. My name is Michael Lukens. I am a graduate of our Alpha Pi chapter at the University of Washington, and I currently volunteer as an education dean, developing curriculum for the fraternity. Both of my parents were college graduates, but neither of them were affiliated with fraternity and sorority life. So when I was applying for, or when I was accepted to the University of Washington and fraternity and sorority life material started arriving in the mail, my parents had a lot of questions. And I do credit my mom a lot with my decision to join the fraternity. She encouraged me to at least look into it and give it a chance. I was probably anti-Greek headed into college. She framed it as a way to make a big campus smaller and to have a college support structure while I was there, since I was moving about 3 hours away from home. She had a lot of questions though, and my dad as well. And their sort of thought process and the questions that they had are a big inspiration in creation of this program. I want to provide the resource that maybe my parents did not have when I joined fraternity life. I will say from fraternity, I was able to gain a support structure that lasts this day. And I was also pushed by the organization to become a better student, a better volunteer, and a better human. With that, we're going to dive into the meat of the program, but first I'd like to introduce my co-facilitator, Guillermo Flores.
Hi everyone, my name is Guillermo Flores. I am a graduate from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, our Beta Chi chapter of Phi Kappa Tau. Currently, I'm at my parents' house because I'm visiting. So they all say hello, and they're really excited that we're putting this program on for families, caretakers, and parents, because like Michael said, we want to make sure that we're bringing you all in and providing the information and working to be as helpful and transparent as possible. I'm a first-generation college student, so the first one for my family to go to college. The first time I went to campus was when I moved in with my parents 6 hours away. I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs, and you know, my parents didn't attend college, so this was a completely new experience. But they have gotten to see over the years how much Phi Kappa Tau means to me and why I spend so much time with Phi Tau and my brothers locally and also nationally. So we're really excited that you're here. My parents are a really big part of my life, so I was very excited to be a part of the planning and putting the program on. Something that Phi Kappa Tau did just recently is they actually translated our creed into Spanish. So to share that experience with my parents was really, really cool and just shows the care that Phi Tau puts into our audience and who we're working with. So thank you for being here. And with that, I'm thrilled to pass it on to our national president, Dale Holland.
Hey everybody, my name is Dale Holland. I'm a 1987 initiate at Kent State University in our Beta Mu chapter, originally from Ohio. I'm very honored to serve our organization as our 50th national president, a job that I've been elected into and I take very serious. I'm very dedicated to our organization, and I'm very dedicated to our creed and what our organization stands for. So with that, a little bit about myself. I'm a 25-year veteran from the United States Air Force, retiring in a grade of colonel. I work in the private sector now as a VP for a satellite communications company. And in my spare time, I'm the Phi Kappa Tau national president. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you very, very much for allowing us to be a part of your son's life. And thank you for your passion to support your sons in this endeavor. Now, I will give you a phone number because I do not take this job lightly. This is my personal cell phone number. If you have issues, questions, concerns, and you're not getting the right answers or the answers you think are correct, please call me day or night, 301-509-6115. I handed out my number during a national convention, and I'll hand it to you. Our most important recruiters of brothers in our fraternity are their mothers and their fathers. And I thank you for taking your time this evening. With that, we have reestablished our education programs. This is one of the newer programs we have. We have a lot of alumni programs, and we're developing a way ahead for career planning and placement. We have a chapter that has very good success with helping their seniors get into the workplace. The universities no longer provide functioning career planning and placement centers. So we are looking for our alumni and our professionals out there in Phi Kappa Tau land to help our brothers along the way and hopefully give them career starts and opportunities that they never thought they had. At the national president, I oversee basically the board of directors with 8 national counselors and a vice president. And we're setting our strategic goals for Phi Kappa Tau for the next 5 years. Accelerating growth of our undergraduate membership as we come out of this COVID pandemic is a must. We're providing the differential value of membership through professional growth and engagement, and we're facilitating strong lifeline ties and brotherhood. Our goal is to establish the best in-industry operational and financial model for our organization. As I stated before, when I took the office of national president, brotherhood first, Phi Tau always is our mode and our logo right now. But I want each and every one of you to know that you have a very professional, dedicated staff and a very, very passionate professional volunteer and alumni support mechanism out in Phi Kappa Tau land. And I've been asked to repeat my cell number again. Again, it's Dale Holland, just like the country, 301-509-6115. Thank you for your time tonight. I guarantee you're going to have a great program and you're going to learn a lot more of what your sons are doing in Phi Kappa Tau. So thank you very much and have a great evening. Back to you, Gil.
Thank you so much. Turning it over to Lukens now.
All right, so I want to introduce you all to a little bit about our organization. I think it's important to frame our conversation a little bit in the context of who we are and who we see ourselves as. So some fast facts about Phi Kappa Tau. We were founded in 1906 as the Non-Fraternity Association at the very confusingly named Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. We currently have 81 active chapters in the United States. And over 100,000 total alumni. Over the last 4 years, we measure our success in what we can do for our communities and for our world around us. And as part of that, we have been able to raise over $300,000 for charitable organizations, and over 200,000 service hours were completed by our undergraduate and graduate brothers alike. We also offer $32,000 in scholarship available annually. I know I paid for undergraduate for my education, and having a scholarship provided by my organization was a huge benefit to me. And you may have heard of us by the nickname of Phi Tau. With that, I'd like to talk a little bit more about what we provide educationally for our brothers alike. And for that, I'm going to turn that over to Brother Alan Shaw.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being with us tonight. We truly appreciate it. My name is Alan Shaw. I'm a founding father to the Alpha Alpha chapter at Michigan State and also the National Education Advisor. But fortunately, I'm transitioning into being one of our National Council members. But I work with the great deans that you're hearing tonight, along with the rest of the executive offices. But we are very proud of all our educational programming and our national programs that we do. We really do believe we're moving into, for lack of a better phrase, cradle to grave opportunities. So once the brothers are with us, we will then have programming once they graduate to look at if they're having children, all the way to how to write wills and things like that as we move forward. But some of our main programs right now, we're really looking at leadership and developing the men to create the men of distinction and to have great characters. So we are offering leadership programming through our regional conferences as well as Leadership Academy, where they go for 3 days or 5 days in person, but we've been doing them virtually as well. And then offering leadership development for our presidents, knowing that they have a lot coming at them at all times, so that we come together for 3 days in Texas or virtually this past year to be able to make sure that they are getting what they need. We also know that they need to be able to look at organizations and how to move forward with their own character, with their own leadership. So we have Building Men of Character retreats, Good to Great retreats, where we come to the different campuses or associate campuses, or to the different chapters or associate chapters to be able to do that. We also, as we talked about, service. So we have national community service events with visiting all the locations throughout the years for our community service, which I think Guillermo will talk about in a minute. But we also know that we need to make sure that the organization offers the way for it to be running. So our national convention comes together every other year, as well as our conclave to do the business for the fraternity, as well as offer educational leadership and social opportunities for the men and their families if they should choose to come. But we really also are knowing that our advisors, our campus partners, and you as our families, caretakers, are really important for the growth of our men, making sure their mental, physical health are being taken care of, along with being able to make sure that they are leading, learning, and serving so that they will be better brothers and then better members of society in the long run. Our Progress series, as Michael talked about in the beginning, is expanding, where we are bringing in professionals to really help look at mental health opportunities, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as risk management, but all different types of opportunities so that they can continue to become better brothers and better men in society. So I could talk a long, long time about our programming and the importance of them. So I will stop there and turn it back to Michael. So thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you, Alan. And I will indeed turn it over to Guillermo.
All right, so wanted to share that one of the most famous movie stars ever is an alumnus of Phi Kappa Tau fraternity. So Paul Newman is a brother from our beta chapter at Ohio University, and I set that foundation in terms of a conversation because we're going to be talking about what our national philanthropy is as a fraternity. So national philanthropy is a cause that an organization supports and is part of their core being. And for Phi Kappa Tau, it is a SeriousFun children's network that was started by Paul Newman. And it began with salad dressing. The next time that you are at the grocery store and you see some Newman's own products, whether that be the popcorn, the salad dressing, any of those materials, I want you to pick it up and I want you to read the back of it because it's going to tell you about the SeriousFun Children's Network. 100% of the proceeds from Newman's own products go back into the SeriousFun Children's Network. So for Paul Newman being one of our alumnus in the mid 90s, early 90s, Phi Capital adopted what used to be the hole in the wall gang camps as our national philanthropy that all of our chapters work to raise money and funds for, and also volunteer for. So next time that you talk to your son, or maybe give them a little time if they're a new member, ask them about the SeriousFun Children's Network. Ask them about the events that their chapters or their fraternity chapter puts on. And if they ask you to donate to it, now you're going to know why and have a little history behind it. And hopefully you can research who we are as a fraternity, but then also the SeriousFun Children's Network. Like I said, they were started as the Hole in the Wall gang camps, and that was the name of the hideout from Cool Hand Luke, if you've seen that movie. And from there, it was a trickle-down effect because there have been camps now all over the world and all over the country. It's a really fun follow on social media if you're on Facebook or if you're on Instagram or Twitter. Their social media accounts for the SeriousFun Children's Network, but then also all of our individual camps that are a part of that network always provide really great content and just information, because the mission is to help kids and families who are going through difficult times, whether that be medically or other options, and they get to go to camp for free. And it's just one of the most impactful experiences because they don't have to pay for it. It's a way for families to have, some time to themselves as parents or as caretakers or kids at camp. They're with trained professionals, and we raise money for that so we can help them go to camp and have this really great experience. A defining moment, not only my Phi Tau life, I call it, but just life in general, has been that I received the opportunity to be a volunteer for a week at Camp Boggy Creek in Florida the summer before my senior year of college. And that was just the most fun experience and super humbling and honestly delicious food because it was all Newman's Own products everywhere. But you got to hang out with kids the whole entire week and act like a kid and just be that role model for them. So Phi Kappa Tau, if you didn't know this, does provide up to a $300 travel stipend to volunteer at a camp. And let me tell you, we need male volunteers at camp, because we need those positive male role models. But there's not a summer that hasn't gone since I've been a member that a camp has reached out to me and said, hey, Guillermo, can you get more Phi Taus to come out and volunteer? Because we need more camp counselors, or we need to help out. And it could just be a week out of your summer. And that is just going to be a really impactful part of your life that is going to just stay with you for a really long time. So like I said, an action item for you all as caretakers and families is ask them about the SeriousFun Children's Network. If they're not sure what that is, I always say like, ooh, what's going on in that chapter? you got to know who we are as an organization to have that partnership with SeriousFun. And this really is a big point of pride for us as an organization. And I continue to look forward to see how we're going to make that even more a priority every single year after year. So the big takeaways from this slide is that the SeriousFun Children's Network is our national philanthropy, that the next time you go into a grocery store, check out some Newman's Own products, read the back of the label, and you're going to learn about SeriousFun. And then number 3 is that Phi Kappa Tau offers up to a $300 travel stipend for your son to go volunteer for a week or for a whole summer. And I always say with Phi Tau, if you play it strategically, you make all your money back with how involved you get and how much you put back into Phi Tau. So those are my 3 big takeaways from the SeriousFun Children's Network. And yeah, it's like I said, a big point of pride and really a cornerstone of who we are as an organization. Turn it over to Michael.
Thank you, Guillermo. So I think we should talk a little bit about the why a student might join Phi Kappa Tau. And to be honest, it is an individual choice, and what you get out of it is equally as individual. I will say for me, some of my best friends that I have ever met in my life and people who I keep in contact with to this day were brothers. My first job out of college, I attribute directly to this fraternity. It provided me a great job opportunity graduating at the height of the financial crisis in 2008. just after 2008, and being able to kind of have that security was absolutely amazing. And from a personal note, I got married a year ago, and my best man was indeed one of my brothers. So those benefits alone are worth so very, very much to me. And I'm so thankful to the organization for sort of providing me the venue to be able to do that. Other benefits that you might be able to expect your student to be getting from this experience is belonging to a family on campus. I shared that my mother was a little bit worried about me going to, I think it was a 40,000 student college and finding sort of a niche. And through this organization, I was able to find a like-minded group of young people who were committed to some of the same things that I was. Being a good student was something that was certainly important to my parents and also to myself. But I also wanted to develop myself as a volunteer and develop myself kind of just as a whole human. And this organization provided that benefit for me. I shared a little bit about scholarship opportunities. Let's face it, college is expensive. And having a little bit of help from an organization is an amazing benefit. Also networking. I shared that, my first job out of college was actually with Phi Kappa Tau. And I also met many amazing alumni who've led me to jobs since then. Having that connection, having a nationwide network where there is, 100,000 plus alumni, and certainly one of them is in whatever field I'm looking to get involved in. That's an amazing opportunity to have mentorship and to be connected to maybe opportunities that wouldn't be available otherwise. A chance to travel and connect with brothers. There was a good 6-year span where I did not pay for a hotel because wherever I went, there was a brother who was willing to offer up a couch or, let me stay in a guest bedroom just because we shared an experience in undergraduate years or shared an organization. And a lifelong support network. Like I said, some of my best friends, the people that I confide in, the people that I talk to, many of them are my brothers. And indeed, soft skills. So I will say going into college, the thought of presenting to, a group of 62% participants or however many we have right now would have terrified me. The organization provided me sort of with that soft skill to be able to speak in public, to be able to be comfortable in front of a group of people. It provided me soft skills in just acting professionally. I didn't know how to tie a tie. These are all sort of the soft skills that the fraternity provided me that may have been more difficult to come by elsewhere. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to kind of have learned that in a supportive and friendly organization. And now I'd like to pass it off to Brandon to tell us a little bit about our commitment to safety as an organization.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate this presentation that we've had so far. Michael, Guillermo, you all have done such a wonderful job of putting this together. Phi Kappa Tau will and always has been committed to the health and safety of your students, of your children, more than anything else. Although we just talked about all the things that Phi Kappa Tau does offer and all the great things that your students will get when it comes from this experience, unfortunately, there can be a dark side, and we see it unfortunately more often than we should. We do our best, and we will continue to work and improve on best ways to educate, train, and reinforce and support your students to make the best possible decisions that they can make, and the leaders in which we have put entrusted to guide them. But unfortunately, that does sometimes fall short. So there are two different ways that if you do feel that your student is not safe within one of our chapters, there are two ways in which you could report. One is the Phi Kappa Tau contact link that you see there. Then you will hit the report a concern button and you can detail whatever that is. We'll get back to you within 24 hours, within a business day, whatever that concern may be. Those concerns go straight to me and we immediately address them accordingly. Or the best option is to call us directly. So you'll see that line right there, 1-800-PKT-1906. Whenever you click it, you'll get brought up on our call tree. If you click 7, that's our emergency line that goes directly into the pockets of myself and our chief executive officer. But there are other options depending on what you may want to chat with us about. We want to reiterate, we are always going to be committed to the safety of your members. Everyone here that you've heard on our call has some vested interest in the education and training of your members to not only be the best version of themselves and to leave their campus experience being strong men for not only the organization, but for their campuses, for you as their family members, and for their communities. And alcohol abuse, relationship violence, none of those things have any part of that experience. And we are committed to get that out of this of our chapters with any way that we can. So if you've heard of anything, let us know. You can put it in the chat right now if you want, or directly DM me. We can follow up. But you know, we want to work with you all as partners to the best that we can. With that, I'll pass it back over to Guillermo.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. And our executive office really is such a great resource for all of you as families. And if you have a son who's a member in Phi Kappa Tau, whether that be someone who's a senior or someone who is a new member, please make sure to reach out and just take a look through the website to just familiarize yourself more with the organization. Just know that you have support. And also let us know if something really great has happened. I think a lot of times we do focus on so much of the negative in life that we let the really great moments or the moments that help our sons pass by, but we want to hear about that. So with that, I'm really excited to turn it over to some information from some parents. We're going to be hearing from Dallas and Tish Jones, and I'm super excited to turn it over to them to share a little bit about their experience as parents for a brother of Phi Kappa Tau.
Thank you, Guillermo. I had to shut off a beep in the back of the kitchen here. Sorry about that. But my name is Dallas Jones, and this is my wife, Tish. And we were enthusiastic to do this when Guillermo asked if we would be willing to just share with you some of our observations and experience with our son, Dallas Jr., who's shown on your screen there, just graduated from Nebraska Wesleyan University and here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I can't tell you enough how extraordinary his experience was. When Dallas was in high school, he was one of those kids that was uber active and was frustrated that he couldn't find other kids like him that wanted to do everything and do everything really well. And going to college, we kept telling him, you know, the funnel will narrow. When you get there, you'll find more kids that will be kind of like you and want to do the things you want to do. And when he found Phi Kappa Tau, he found exactly that. Phi Kappa Tau has provided, you know, a kid that was probably a bit of a diamond in the rough, opportunities of growth in every way that we as parents were looking for. Academically, the culture, it all starts with culture in any organization. It's about culture. And with Phi Kappa Tau, it was all about academics. He had mentors who were there constantly showing him how it's done. There was an expectation of excellence at his chapter that was there from the day that he walked in until this day in May when he walked out. And it shows in their GPA that was the highest on campus, including sororities, which, you know, from my perspective, I was in a fraternity. We didn't have Phi Kappa Tau where I went to school, but it wasn't quite that way. And I was hopeful that he was going to find the things that I liked the most about Greek life, but also maybe distance himself from some of those things that historically Greek life has been tagged with as maybe not the best things in the world. And Phi Kappa Tau was exactly that. Dallas was kind of a natural leader, but needed some guidance, and Phi Kappa Tau gave him extraordinary opportunities to grow as a leader. It didn't matter whatever the activity was, the organization was there identifying people to help out, giving them opportunities to pitch in and lead, whether it's one or two other guys or the entire chapter. He learned and grew and watched not only kids who were before him who were good leaders and how to do it, but he also saw as an example the extraordinary leadership skills demonstrated by the alumni group who were there all the time guiding the kids. And for that, we're incredibly grateful for the opportunities that he had to become just a much better leader. In terms of teamwork, our son wasn't probably the best at teamwork. He liked to get his own way, and he learned at Phi Kappa Tau how to be a good member of an organization, which means compromise, negotiation, and keeping the interests of the organization first and foremost. The motto, or one of the mottos of Phi Kappa Tau, developing men of character into men of distinction, is exactly right and applied to our son, and he lived that. The people that he associated with, from the youngest member through the oldest alumni member that I have met, have all been men of character who are also men of distinction. And he mimicked that. Monkey see, monkey do. Again, going back to the culture, the fraternity showed him, emphasized for what he already had, which was a sense of giving back and community service, constantly doing something somewhere in campus and in the city to help other people, not just looking out for yourself. Since he's been out, he is realizing the value of the networking. It's only been 5 months since he graduated, but I will get calls from different alumni members of his fraternity who are wanting to provide him with opportunities to do this or that. And that's just not unique to somebody like him. My sense is that's the way the organization works, and it should work. So, from our perspective, we could not have asked for anything more. He had an experience that he will never, ever forget. He made friends for life. He's watched his mother and me be best friend. Our best friends are our friends from our respective Greek houses. And that's exactly the pathway that he's following now. And we couldn't be happier. And we're thankful to everybody in the organization for giving him that opportunity.
So I guess the question is, how do you get involved as a parent? And we participated all the time in the fundraisers, whatever they had, whether it's a car wash, SeriousFun kind of event day, we were there. Of course, you can never fault in feeding and giving food during, they call it culmination week now, but back in the day when I was there, it was dead week, having snacks that week. We also have soup suppers where all the parents would bring a different type of soup. And then during that week, then they could keep the soups and warm them up during the week. We've had a parent support group, and that's always good when you've got, I don't know if it's a girlfriend issue or a depression or something's not going right in school. There's all other parents that you can reach out to that we felt was necessary when kids are in college and away from you, more than 60 miles away. It's always good to have another parent contact. And then there was a year-end awards banquet, and they're all so excited to share in their accomplishments for the year and what they've been doing. I know when we were there for homecoming, they had an open house at the Phi Kappa Tau house. And so Dallas was so proud to show us the house. If there's a house on campus, show us his room, meet his friends, because as Dallas had mentioned before, these are kids that you're meeting that will be their friends for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So from a Greek standpoint, since we're both in Greek houses, it's fun being on the parent side of it, but also enjoying it on the member side of it. So now we get to take it all in as a parent. One thing I just want to leave, but as a mom, I am such an advocate for Greek life, and especially Phi Kappa Tau. They have the strongest national organization. And I hope that my younger son, who's 16, who's a junior in high school, will also be a member of Phi Kappa Tau.
Thank you.
Well, and thank you, Dallas and Tish, for being a part of this. Obviously knowing your son, I am so impressed by him, and I appreciate you both sharing your story and talking about it from the parents' perspective. So thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to a past national president of our organization and the current director of philanthropy, Charlie Ball.
Thanks a lot. I'm really happy to be here and to talk a little bit about the Phi Kappa Tau Foundation. I was asked to talk about opportunities for giving to the foundation, but I wanted to start off by saying that the foundation, you should know that the foundation, our 501c3 charitable entity, provides an enormous amount of support to our chapters and to our organization as a whole. In particular, you'll probably be interested to know that we provide just from the foundation in a general sense, about $45,000 in scholarship funds, some of which are really outstanding, significant scholarships. So we encourage you to have your sons look out for opportunities to apply for scholarships. They can contact our foundation directly, any of us on the staff, for information about scholarships. You all certainly can do that as well. There's information on our website. One quick little explanation that maybe is helpful to understand about our foundation and why we have a separate organization that is a 501c3 charitable organization in Phi Tau. You may be surprised to know that our national organization, our local chapters, and the local alumni corporations that own most of the houses where our chapters are housed are nonprofit organizations, but they are not considered charitable. So you can't make a tax-deductible contribution to those organizations directly to our fraternity, directly to a local chapter, directly to a house corporation, like you could to a college or university, or to a church, or your local art museum, or any other charitable organization that you're familiar with. So we have now for 75 years had a separate charitable organization that is able to receive funds and to award grants for things that are particularly educational in nature. They have to meet certain criteria, but we can make grants for things that are considered educational. Scholarships are absolutely one of those things. It's one of the most easy things to understand. And there are a couple of ways that, maybe three ways that you might engage with the foundation. We talked already about SeriousFun, and the foundation accepts tens of thousands of dollars each year, millions of dollars in the 25 years that we've had the relationship. We accept contributions through the foundation for our support of SeriousFun, and we pass those contributions directly on to SeriousFun. If individuals are making contributions when chapters are having fundraisers, this gives them the opportunity to use the foundation and our online giving portal to allow someone to make a tax-deductible contribution, whether it's an individual or a corporation. One other fund that we have had for a number of years now is called the Parents Fund, and it is funded exclusively with contributions from parents of our undergraduate members. Some parents have continued to give even after their students have graduated. But this fund has provided $1,000 scholarship or more every year. And it's one of the significant annual scholarships that we provide. So if you are inclined and want to support the Parents Fund, you can certainly do that. That's a fraternity-wide scholarship, and that's handled by the selection process is handled by our selection committee. The other way that you may be interested to learn about helping a chapter directly is what we call the Chapter Educational Grant Fund. Every one of our chapters has a CEG, as we call them, and individuals can make contributions to that CEG fund specifically for the use of that chapter. The specific grants are requested by the Board of Governors, which is the local alumni governing group that each chapter has, and funds that are requested from its CEG have to be used for an educational purpose. But there are a number of educational purposes. Lots of our chapters, in addition to the $45,000 in national scholarships that we have, lots of our individual chapters run scholarship programs, particularly during the last couple of years during the challenges of COVID. A number of our chapters have started scholarship programs to help individual students. CEGs can also receive contributions to help support students with other kinds of educational programming. Some of the things that we put on as a national fraternity, they can get money from a CEG grant to help pay for travel for other expenses related to some of those educational programs. And as you all know better than anybody, every little bit helps in helping to fund a student's education. The last thing that you may be interested to know about the CEG funds is that they are also opportunities to fund certain aspects of housing improvements that chapters take on. Anything that's directly educational, space that's used for study, a library, and the ongoing operating cost associated with those facilities can be supported by contributions, grants from a chapter's CEG. So there is a way that people can make tax deductible contributions to help with housing projects and educational related aspects of fraternity housing. That's a very brief overview of a lot of work the foundation does, but we're glad for you to know that we do have this separate entity that is working actively to raise funds from our alumni, from our friends, from parents, to help support the important work that we do. And if there's ever a way that we can be helpful to you in working with your son, in working with your son's chapter, your son's chapter house, we're happy to talk with you about that.
Thank you, Charlie. So I just want to give you guys all some fair warning. We'll be moving into the question and answer portion right after this next section. So please do post any questions you have in the chat or write them down or however, but we're excited to have some robust discussion there. But before we do that, I'd like to turn it over briefly to our CEO, Tim Hudson.
Thanks, Michael. So I just have a couple of things I want to point out, and I'm going to share this in a link in the chat as well. As Greeks, we're very proud of Phi Kappa Tau in our experience. Oh, my screen just moved around. We're also extremely proud of just the overall Greek experience and what that can mean to a person in their development while they're on campus and within our organization. And so what I want to help connect for you is that, yes, you may hear your son talk about their rivalries with other groups on campus or their connections to other groups on campus or other things. But at the end of the day, what's successful across that campus community and in the Greek community is a success for Phi Kappa Tau as well. And one of the things that we've been doing, we are invested in as an organization with many of our peers, is research. It is a data-driven society, and we all know that. And I want to share with you just a couple of things that have come out of research that's been funded by our organization and others to help try and quantify what this experience can be. You've heard it eloquently stated tonight, most importantly from Dallas and Tish, but from some of these other men who've shared. And I hope that your sons will experience that. But at the end of the day, there is data out there, and Gallup is one of the groups that has helped us do this research over the past 7 years. We've had some longitudinal data now that talks about fraternity members having, based compared to other folks on campus, a stronger experience with mental health and wellness while they're in school. The support network is there for them in ways that potentially it is not for other folks while they're in school. I'll let you read the rest of the proof that's there when I share the report. The next item is that fraternities are an accelerator for success in college and beyond. We certainly believe that is the case with Phi Kappa Tau. And just a couple of data points there is that 83% of members indicate stronger leadership confidence as a result of their fraternity membership. I certainly believe that is true of the experience that Phi Kappa Tau provides, and that is provided across the right fraternity experience. And the other thing that is important, I think, in today, there's multiple other data points here, but the other one I'll read you is, despite our organizations potentially being less diverse than student bodies in general across the campus organization, fraternity and sorority members reported higher levels of interaction with people different from themselves than did other students on the campus. And I think you'll find that our organization and the experience that's promoted, and as Dallas and Tish mentioned, is going to force our members to be in some uncomfortable spots, is going to force our members to compromise, is going to force our members to work in a team environment. And that learning outside of the classroom is a key component of what these young men will take away as they move on into the workforce and into their communities. And that's the last point. Fraternities create lifelong connection to the campus, to the community, and to their peers. And again, there's multiple data points here. But at the end of the day, I think you've heard that echoed throughout the men who have spoken here this evening. You've heard from Dale Holland, our national president. You've heard from members of our national board in Dr. Alan Shaw. You've heard from Michael and Guillermo, who have put this together, and Brandon from our executive office team. But I want you to hear it one more time. You have entrusted us with your greatest prize, your sons, and we take that very seriously. And we want them to have an amazing experience. And we're here to listen to you, to hear from you, to hear success stories, hopefully, and to engage where we need to help with this experience. But thank you so much for your trust in us. And I look forward to answering some questions as we unfold this evening. Thanks to everyone who presented.
Thank you so much, Tim. So I'll turn it over to Michael.
Yes, so we are now moving into the question and answer portion. I believe this would be a great question for Brandon. If you could talk a little bit about the opportunities for membership as a grad student.
Yeah, certainly. So there's two different ways to kind of look at this. One, if you're if you're a member of another chapter who's going to grad school somewhere else, and you want to be involved at the graduate level, you could either, one, still join the chapter as an active member, but the most typical option, and typically what we would suggest, is that you just get involved with the Board of Governors, which is that Alumni Volunteer Board, get in contact with them and work on getting involved at the alumni level, just to get a better experience, typically from what we've been able to tell. But there is options in that way to join an active chapter again. And there's a process and ways to do that. What I would suggest is that if you do have a student who does want to get involved in that way, so is a member of another chapter, and then is going to grad school somewhere else, contact our office. Guillermo, Michael, if you could pull up the last slide on the presentation, it has the best ways to contact us. That would be the best way to do that. As for the secondary way, so if you are just a grad student who's unaffiliated and you want to join an active chapter, there is also two different routes for that. The first route, which is the most common one, is we have an honorary initiation process. And what that is that you, as a graduate member, you immediately join the fellow alumni and have the ability to have all rights, privileges, abilities to be a Phi Tau, but you immediately can stay at the alumni level, or you can go the active chapter route as well and simply join through whatever the chapter's recruitment process is. So two different routes, both kind of similar. One, join straight as an alumni or join the active chapter. Typically going the alumni route is the most popular and the most preferred, because if you're a grad student, typically much older than 18, 19, 20, and joining as alumni is typically the best.
Thank you, Brandon. And then we have a question about how do we as an organization support recruiting for new or associate chapters? And also, what's the criteria for establishing a chapter house? I'll direct that one at Charlie.
Well, on the support aspect, I think we have in the last, I've been involved with this organization for a long time, and I'm pleased to say that within the last 15 years or so, I think we have really figured out the secret sauce to helping establish a new chapter on a campus. When we go back to a place where a chapter is closed and we restart it, or we go to a campus where we've been invited and we've never been before, I think our staff does a really intensive job early on in that process and helps to recruit the kinds of students that have turned many of our brand new chapters, newly chartered chapters, into some of the strongest chapters that we have. That certainly happened at Nebraska Wesleyan, who we've talked about tonight. That chapter was closed in the early 2000s and was restarted and has almost every year since they've gotten back up and running have been in the hunt as one of our most outstanding chapters in the country. So we put a lot of intensive staff effort on campus and working with the local alumni and the new associate chapter, as we call them now, as that gets started. The housing question is a challenging one. Every campus is different. Some of our chapters are not housed at all. Some are housed in university provided facilities. Some rent. Some own very large chapter houses that they have built themselves or or bought from another organization. If a chapter is not currently housed, the answer, we can help work with that chapter and its alumni to think about ways to, it's just like a family buying a house. You know, you don't jump right out as a young family necessarily and have the resources to buy a house or to buy the house that you ultimately want to have. And so we work closely with groups to help think through the appropriate steps, whether there are places that we can rent in the meantime, whether there are smaller houses sometimes that can be bought. Although that is very much of a local effort. We provide advice and support as a national organization. As I mentioned before, we can help to assist a chapter in raising funds for the educational portion of that chapter house through the foundation. We have a loan organization within the fraternity called Old Main Holdings that can make mortgage loans. They can't probably not loan money enough to build a new house, but to help along that way. So there are a number of things that we can do, and we're happy to talk about those things as well if you want to get more in depth about that.
Thank you, Charlie. There were some additional questions about budgeting and the Board of Governors. I'll direct you all to the chat. They've been answered there. Thank you guys for fielding that there. Dallas and Tish, I'd love to hear your perspective on this question. So what does the fraternity do to develop its membership? And specifically, what have you seen? What resources did you see the fraternity provided for Dallas?
Go, or you want to go?
Go for it.
Yeah, well, nothing happens by chance is the first thing I want to say. It is very deliberate. And from the first day, the organization brings the kids in, and the kids look around and they see examples of how to behave, how to study, how to give back, how to lead. And every chapter, I think, is slightly different, but what permeates every chapter, my sense is that there is programming that is in place, whether it's academics, whether it is a leadership development program from the very basic level through somebody serving as the chapter president. It's encouraging its members for involvement on campus, not just in the fraternity. It is providing opportunities in a very deliberate fashion for kids to learn how to socialize properly. Every organization has a structure where it has very specific things that it wishes to accomplish, and kids are plugged into that very early on, and the culture is there, and everybody just understands and knows that's what we do. That's who we are, and this is how we act. That's how we behave. And there's an expectation that permeates the organization, and it just works. So I don't want to go on and on. Jump in and
No,
add
I
what you
mean,
want.
there are strong advocates, as we had mentioned before, with academics. And so they have all the books down there. So if a member has bought a book for a particular class, then they don't need to go to the bookstore and buy a class because, you know, their brother already has it there. They're constantly studying, not all the time, but for most parts, that's just who they are and what they are. And they understand that they have a reputation to uphold, and everyone is looking at fraternities to look at and see what possibly they could do wrong. And they know that they have to go above and beyond just a normal college student that's not in a fraternity. So their whole fraternity and the way their culture is set up permeates how to develop into a young man and respond academically, professionally, and being a good team member.
Thank you both very much. I appreciate that answer. It's always good hearing from you. One final question, and we will provide a little bit of structure for how to ask any future questions that you may have after our time together tonight, but we obviously want to respect everyone's time. I'll direct this at any of our executive office staff members, but I think it's an important question. And that is, what is the fraternity doing to help increase diversity in the young men that join our organization?
Yeah, I can take a stab at this first. So we are currently doing a lot of due diligence in assessing what is the best way to do this that is both earnestly and endearing, that is not, one, trying to meet a quota, or two, just recruiting diverse folks for the sake of recruiting diverse folks. Last year, by order of our national council, which is our national governing volunteer board, they commissioned a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force to help work through this issue of what can we do to make and assess the diversity, equity, the diversity of our organization, and are we being equitable? Are we being inclusive? Thank you, Drake, for putting that in the chat. That'll basically, and thank you, Guillermo, for putting that on the screen. Does a good job of explaining what I'm saying as well. The purpose of this task force was to assess exactly what we're asking. How do we make our organization more diverse? That task force has done a great deal of work over this past year, so much so that we created a permanent standing committee by order of our national president that you saw earlier this evening, Dale Holland, to create a diversity, equity, inclusion, and with the addition of accessibility committee. So diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility committee with its own national committee chairman. This will be a continuous conversation that we will have. We are working very, very diligently on the best way to do that. But to answer your question, the way we're doing that is by putting a lot of staff and volunteer time and probably assessing what is the best way to do this earnestly, longitudinally, and permanently within our organization. Let's not put a Band-Aid over this or just give a quick solution that is not longstanding.
Thank you, Brandon. So we wanted to thank all of you, and something that really stood out to me was that you all entrust us with your sons, and that is such a privilege. And we want to make sure that this is an invitation to bring you in to Phi Kappa Tau and to start a conversation and to really share that information. So please visit phikappatau.org/parents. And if you have a question, email chapterservices@phikappatau.org. And thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Whatever we can do for more programming for families and parents, please let us know, because this has been a really great night. So my wish is that you all have a great night, and also just know how much a fraternity does to help a young man's mental health. When we talk about so much male loneliness and all the articles that come out about it, Phi Kappa Tau really is at home for our brothers. So we appreciate you, and we hope to have this conversation continue. Take care. And we'll stay after to see if anyone has any questions, or if we can help with anything. And thank you to our presenters.
I appreciate all of the information that parents are sharing about their son's experience. Or I just saw somebody from Zeta chapter at the University of Illinois heard about their son's fundraising dinner tomorrow night and bought an extra ticket for SeriousFun Children's Network. Thank you for that. Hearing about how the fraternity helped Deirdre, your son, during the pandemic. I think there are so many cases of that. And those are the untold stories that we don't capture those types of things in the way that we capture some of the other press that is out there about the fraternal experience in the wrong way. But there's been so much of that. And I know throughout the organization at every level, amongst our staff, across our board, people that were in situations being furloughed for periods of time. We cut staff. I mean, there was just a ton of things that have impacted people, and I know the organization's been very thoughtful about that. I think Dale said wanting to ramp up campus recruiting, not lack of. Certainly there are a few chapters out there that need more assistance than others. But as I watch that roll across, I believe Karen Henderson, our goal is to assist those groups that have areas of concern and or are asking for help, certainly. And then I think just developing across the organization a more thoughtful approach to recruitment, a more continuous approach to recruitment, not being reliant on just formal recruitment or what you may have heard as rush, but how are our members making friends and bringing people into the organization year round? And that's an area that I know Dale, our board, and certainly our staff are focused on educating our members around. Beta Epsilon chapter at Southern Mississippi. Great to hear that there's two brothers in there. Mr. Addison, I believe, shared that. Yeah, Cornell, Alpha Tau. Yes, that was it. They had a great year last year. See that from Beth. Epsilon Sigma chapter at Chapman. I think they just had another excellent recruitment, Terry, and brought in a great new group of young members. And I know they were one of the few groups that were able to operate last year as not being a state school. And so we were so happy for them. I know there were a bunch of other chapters in the state that were not as fortunate. Yeah, I know they're having a great experience, and I'm happy to hear that for your son.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Y'all have a great night, and you have our contact information.
Thanks, Guillermo. Thanks, Michael, Alan, Charlie, Brandon. Excellent work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Tim, as usual. And Guillermo, Michael, Alan, Charlie, the same. Good job putting this on for the first time.
Have a good evening.
Bye now.
Thought I ended the meeting. Came back on. Let's try this again.
All right. Great job, everyone. Cool.
Yeah, great job. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Guillermo, for being such a great partner in all this, and Brandon, Drake, for all your help. Couldn't have done it without you. So glad we got that out. I know my parents would have loved to have had something like that, so I'm glad we were able to create it.
Yeah, thank you all this.
Yeah, I just want to say awesome job, guys. It was great to be a part of it and just kind of taking the back seat. It was just, I think, a huge thing for a lot of our parents, and I think it'll be well received. So definitely appreciate the work that you guys did for sure. Awesome. And with that, I think we're